It's a technological revolution which is already having an impact on workplaces across Europe. The use of artificial intelligence has become more and more integrated into our everyday lives. But how concerned should we be about AI taking over our jobs? Hello and welcome to Roundtable. I'm Enda Brady. Now, the rise in the use of AI in the European labour market is fueling fears of fewer opportunities, particularly among younger workers. Software engineering, customer service and marketing are some of the most vulnerable sectors. So, what does the future of work look like? And are concerns of widespread unemployment valid?
Robots are becoming more sophisticated, AI is advancing, and jobs are already being lost. Across Europe, AI is already running car factory assembly lines in Germany and delivering humanoid robot home care in Italy and the UK.
Pay us what we deserve.
In Berlin, TikTok workers have been striking over mass layoffs amid the company's global push to replace social media moderators with AI.
Artificial intelligence is also biased. This means that artificial intelligence cannot recognize whether this content is discriminatory towards certain people or certain people with personal backgrounds.
According to the UN, AI could affect 40% of global employment in the next decade. Women are 3 times more likely to have their jobs taken by AI.
Artificial intelligence is reshaping our world. But the transformation is unfolding in an industry dominated by men, shaped by biased data, and driven by algorithms that frequently reinforce discrimination. We must confront violence and online hate and ensure that technology serves equality, not exclusion.
Across the Atlantic, AI is transforming how we work and learn. In the US, the AI receptionist, Cassie, checks in patients, processes paperwork, and requests medical records.
Are you satisfied with your visit today?
In Canada, an AI bot is helping to teach students.
Hi, Kia. We're just about to start class. How you doing?
Great, thanks. I'm eager to dive into our discussion on AI. Let's get started.
Artificial intelligence is transforming industries faster than anyone could predict. Jobs across sectors face significant disruption. So how many human roles will AI erase, and how quickly will it happen?
Well, let's bring in our guests on this one. Joining us from Luxembourg, we have Terry Gregory. He's Research Associate at the Luxembourg Institute of Socio-Economic Research. In Thessaloniki, in Greece, we have Konstantinos Pouliakas. He's a policy analyst on skills and labour markets. That's at the European Centre for the Development of Vocational Training. And I'm delighted to say here with me in the studio, we have Jayne Mather. She's a technology adoption consultant and author of Humans and AI, The Future of Work. You're all very welcome to this roundtable. Jayne, how long until there is an AI robot presenting Roundtable and I'm out of a job? Should I be worried?
I hope not, because AI could take over your job right now. However, it won't have your unique style, your unique voice, your charisma, your charm.
You're flattering me, Jayne. Tell me, how worried, though, seriously, about all our jobs should we be? AI, we keep hearing about, we keep reading about it. I mean, just spell out what it actually is.
Sure. So AI can replace a lot of us. Right now, 30% of the workforce we could replace right now with AI and automation. Absolutely, that's there. However, I don't think the word is fear. I think we need to be cautious and we need to be intentional. So I advocate for AI. I will go into organisations and I will help them how to adopt it and how to innovate with new technology. I am all for that. However, what I advocate for is humans and AI is where you're going to get the benefit from. Let's automate the mundane and the routine, and let's elevate people into more stimulating, more highly valued roles. So we shouldn't yet fear taking jobs. They are going to be displaced. We are already seeing a slowdown in the job market. I'm sure Konstantinos can tell us more about that. However, there's going to be new jobs coming. What I think the challenge is for us now and why we need to be intentional is because we need to focus more on reskilling humans to work alongside AI and those new jobs that are coming in.
Thank you, Jayne. Terry, to you, there's one statistic that just jumped out from what Jayne was saying there. 30% of all jobs could be replaced by AI right now. I mean, this is very concerning.
That's true. Although in the past, there were lots of studies showing that there would be mass unemployment from new technologies. There's a long history of this actually, and people tend to overestimate also the automation potential. We've done a study on our own, reflecting on these studies, and often they focus on occupations, and then they say, okay, some occupations will vanish and others not. I think this is incorrect, because what is happening is that AI is taking away certain tasks, but also creating new tasks. So you really have to look at the job level to really estimate what potential does a job have to be automated. So there's a lot of overestimation in that, but that doesn't mean that there will be a lot of jobs being reshaped. I think that's these numbers should be interpreted in 40% of the jobs will be reshaped, or whatever number you get. So it's not really about jobs being taken away. It's really about, these are the jobs that will see a large transformation. Jayne talked already about reskilling. So those will be the issues that are more important. It's not about the end of work. It's about the restructuring of work.
Konstantinos, just come in on this. Your thoughts then on the restructuring of work. AI is going to kind of come along and kick every workplace up in the air, isn't it?
Well, I would tend to agree very much with previous two speakers, in the sense that we did start a decade ago with a lot of techno fear, with some predictions saying that even as much as half of employment in advanced Western economies could be automated because of the advancement of machine learning technologies. A lot of those predictions, as Professor Gregory mentioned, have been disproved. And if anything, now most studies tend to show that the share of jobs at risk of automation are as close to 14%. Some studies have showed those kind of ballparks, to as little as 5%. I would say that, for instance, we asked European workers last year with a dedicated AI skills survey that we carried out at CEDEFOP. And I was quite surprised in the sense that 15% of adult workers in our sample said that they were afraid that in the next 5 years their job could be lost because of the advancement of AI technologies. I was expecting higher than that, given the fact that you tend to hear so much scaremongering around us about AI. So I would tend to say that people themselves are becoming increasingly conscious of the fact that AI isn't so much a threat, but a challenge for their own working lives. On the other hand, just to also put an asterisk, we should not dismiss the fact that even if 14% of jobs do eventually become automated because of AI, it's not a trivial percentage. It does mean that several millions of European workers are likely to, not only European, but also worldwide workers are likely to lose their jobs, be displaced because of AI. So this will pose a tremendous challenge for educational policies, social insurance policies, and we will need to tackle with that. It's not something that policymakers should also sort of dismiss.
Thanks, Konstantinos. To you, Jayne, which jobs then and industries do you think are most at risk? The early days of AI now, getting into business. Which industries, if anyone's watching, do you think we really need to be worried about?
So we're already seeing it in the information workers. We're hearing about coders and developers already being replaced with AI. There's data, customer services, anything that's computer-based, rules-based is at risk. What's also a little bit of a worry is the kind of graduate level jobs, entry level jobs. A lot of those are slowing down quicker because they can get AI to do a lot of those basic roles, which is going to give us a challenge again in the longer run when we need to be developing people and creating new leaders.
So what happens to a generation of very talented, highly educated young people who've spent a lot of money getting these degrees and masters? Where are the entry-level jobs going to go?
Well, that's why I do tell my son at the moment to have a think about plumbing. But yes, and that's why, again, we need to be intentional about what does our future look like when we've got humans and AI, and because we're only going to see more advances. So we need to be intentional about what does that look like. I'd like to see, as a policy, as an ambition, that we all work less. So I'd like to look at 4-day weeks. I'd like to look at, more high-value jobs, so that are more stimulating for people. So certainly if I was leaving university at the moment, I would be thinking about reskilling into AI jobs, but also we're always going to need people who work with people. So those people who are good at building relationships, who are creative, who can have ambition and strategy and drive. If we combine that with AI and robotics, those are the organisations that are going to win.
Thanks, Jayne. Terry, to you, Jayne mentioned customer service, just one example. I find it very, very strange when nowadays you try and deal with a company if there's an issue and they have this little chatbot box and it tries to help you and it's clearly AI driven. I don't really like it. If you're spending money, if you're buying a service and if there's an issue, we like to deal with humans. At what point do you think companies will turn back to the old-fashioned way of just having someone on the end of a phone line who's able to understand what the issue is and deal with you person to person?
Well, actually, you're talking about something that explains why currently we're not seeing the growth potential of AI on the labor market in company profits. Yeah? Because the way how AI is used currently is not yet the way that it creates productivity. So just using a chatbot quickly installed without the chatbot being intelligent, using customer data of the past and so on, it would be a bad experience actually for customers. So what firms need to do is they really need to integrate their AI systems, their chatbots with their data systems. They really have to create a value added. But the thing is that requires a much larger, much fundamental change in the company. The business model has to change. It has to transform to a decision-making company, and you really have to connect your systems with your data. That's something that I hope will happen in the next years. So we're still in these between times, so between invention of a technology and the implementation. And I think when firms actually do the readjustment process, then customers will also see value added. I think we will have to, coming back to your example, there will be cases where automatic cases where a chatbot can give a good answer, but then if it gets more complicated, it's handed over to the human. So it's really about an intelligent working together between humans and machines. That's something that has to be organized in the companies within the next years.
Thank you, Terry. Konstantinos, I was in Davos in January, the World Economic Forum in Switzerland, and this is the great global gathering of the elites, the wealthy, the powerful, the influential. And what really struck me in Davos this year was the number of panels and discussions that were about AI. Now, these are people who run big business and make an awful lot of money, and they were all absolutely obsessed at Davos this year about AI. It's clear that this is the way business is going. Every business is trying to turn an advantage, maybe shave off some staff. This is the future, whether we like it or not.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because if anything, at the moment, from that time that you were in Davos, now if you follow the stories in the media, there's discussions about AI having reached the sort of trough of disillusionment. Namely, there are discussions about potentially the fact that we may be experiencing an AI hype, and there are question marks being raised about where are the returns that were promised to all of those who were heavily advocating, making heavy investments in AI. So the point I'm trying to make comes back to, in essence, what was mentioned by Terry previously, which is in the statistics, we are still failing to see robust productivity dividends coming from the use of AI within organizations. There are some studies running sort of randomized control experiments for relatively simple tasks, such as, let's compare an AI who's doing performing a writing task with a human. Let's compare a human programmer with an AI. And in these particular settings, you are seeing AI outperforming humans. But these tend to be simple settings which are kind of devoid of the real life in which we live in. And as was initially mentioned, we live in a world which requires empathy, a lot of social skills. It requires a lot of tacit understanding of why are particular people acting in the way they are, why are workers potentially acting out if, for instance, a bad manager tells them that we're going to enforce the use of an AI system within the company without necessarily working with individuals hand in hand in incorporating and integrating this AI within the company. Only if you have this sort of constructive relationship within an organization between those who are implementing the technology and those who are being asked to use the technology, can you actually see productivity dividends? So in essence, a lot of it will play out in the sense of what type of collective bargaining mechanisms are we likely to see? How are workers, firms, technology companies going to split the gains and the benefits of these AI technologies?
Thanks, Konstantinos. Jayne, he just mentioned social skills and empathy. My mother is a retired nurse. My father is a retired police detective at the Garda Síochána, the police force in Ireland. They're two careers that AI could never do their jobs.
No, but it can assist them. It can help both of those jobs and many professions. So that's where we need to think about it. How can it accelerate people's work so that then they can provide a better service to their constituents, their patients? So that's what I'd like to do. And I just want to talk back about the elites. So yes, I do feel for a lot of the organisations. They answer to their shareholders. They're competing against startups that can do a lot more with a lot less people at the moment. And I get that, we need profit to drive that future innovation and advances. However, if they do think short term, then they're going to cause their own problems, because we need people to remain gainfully employed. We need people to have disposable income, to pay in taxes and to pay into our pensions. So it's absolutely in their interest as well, long term for the economy, that we continue to think about what can AI do and what value do humans still give to my organisation. But I just want to counter that with one more thing. I often give a story about the pandemic. Apart from those frontline essential workers who were incredible, a lot of us worked less. And if you think back to that time and your friends and your family, people learned to play new instruments, they wrote books, they learned to grow vegetables in their garden, they volunteered and cared for people in their community. When we work less, if AI and automation can be adopted more to give us that gift of time back, I am so optimistic about the benefits we could see and the surge in the arts and creativity and that community engagement that we could see in society.
Thanks, Jayne. Terry, that's a fascinating point about tax. AI is never going to pay tax. I mean, governments have to find a balance here, don't they? People perhaps being moved or replaced, swapped out by AI. Robots aren't going to pay tax and contribute to any exchequer of any government.
That's true, but it's a difficult balance to do, because on the one hand, investment into technology is the driver of growth. I think against the backdrop of many discussions currently, I think AI will and can in the future yield lots of productivity gains if we do it right, if we do the restructuring right, if we have the right institutions to moderate how technology is used in a way that society benefits from it. So technology will also in the future drive growth. So taxing the technology may not be the best idea. So there might be other solutions to redistribute. I think maybe the relative taxation of labor and capital could be rethought. But I think I think the immediate solution to simply tax robots, tax AI. I think it would hurt your domestic economy. What we need is that firms actually invest into these new technologies, that they implement them in the right way to create the benefits that I was talking about. I think that's the crucial thing. For that, I think policy should rather focus on designing institutions. So there are more and more studies showing how important it is that there are institutions, for instance, also works councils in Europe and other institutions that have actually benefited, actually have a positive moderating effect of how technology is impacting the economy versus, for instance, the US. And that's something that we can use to basically also shape the future. That's, I think, more helpful than for instance, taxing robots or putting up barriers for these technology investments.
Thanks, Terry. Konstantinos, a couple of weeks ago in the UK, President Trump came to visit, and he brought along with him a lot of billionaire tech bros from California, and we were told that the marvelous investment is coming in the United Kingdom, billions and billions of dollars in AI, and tech deals have been done. Should we be concerned about that? You know, it was painted in the media as wonderful news, very positive for the economy. But if all this AI is filtering into the British workforce and removing people, is that not a concern?
It is certainly a concern to the extent that eventually the technology will be deployed in such a manner that it will benefit the few. So if the technology is used in a manner which, in a sense, is driven by only a handful of high-tech companies who, in a sense, control also the large training data sets that they are using in order to be able to train these models, if it's only a handful of companies that are, in essence, monopolizing the market, then I would say there is serious cause of concern. The challenge, coming back to the point about ensuring that these technologies enhance the overall productivity of the economy so that the gains can spill over to a wider share of the workforce, has to do with, in essence, allowing many more actors to be involved in the development of AI models. And for instance, this is something that the European Union is trying to do. It's not only President Trump going to the UK and promising millions of investment. It was also very recently a high-level summit organized in France by President Macron, who is trying to mobilize the European Union in this sphere. But in essence, we have to ensure that a wider set of players are entering into the field in terms of developing AI models. And then we have to try to ensure that the right institutions and social bodies are in place where, as I mentioned before, any sort of wage gains that are likely to ensue because of the use of these AI technologies have to be streamlined down to the average worker. And this is to the benefit of companies, it's to the benefit of the economy, because unless you have that increase in terms of consumer disposable income and power parity in terms of their purchasing power parity, you will reach a situation where you will have a stagnant economy. But if you manage to have a healthy and buoyant economy, in essence, employment will be stable. We will continue to see new jobs emerging, and in a sense, you will have a dynamic environment, and that's essentially what we aspire to eventually have.
Thank you, Konstantinos. Jayne, just to you in summary, what advice would you give to anyone who's watching who privately has thought, you know what, someday I reckon an AI bot could do my job? What kind of skills should people be looking at, or what should we be doing to make sure that that doesn't happen?
Yeah. So as somebody mentioned already, and Konstantinos, I think it was, empathy, people skills, social skills, all of that is still going to be of huge value in our economy, in our job market. But yes, look into reskilling as well. If you're in those more exposed fields, then I don't think all your jobs are going to go away straight away, but I think they're going to change, and I think they're going to become tougher to move around in the job market in those roles. So I would again look at reskilling. If I was in charge of Europe and the policy for AI, which I will await the phone call, I think what I would be looking at is prioritising reskilling. The whole world seems to be in a race to build AI infrastructure. And I don't think we can, in Europe, compete with the US and China in that way. But what we already are better at is workers' rights and things like that. So let's see if we can compete in Europe on protecting our people, on having that intention of what humans and AI in society is like. So let's get better at reskilling programmes. Let's get better at preparing people for the future so then people don't have to have that worry about their jobs.
Thank you, Konstantinos. The clock has beaten us, my friend. Thank you to Terry as well and Jayne here in the studio. Fascinating stuff. Remember, you can see more discussion and debate on our YouTube channel. Just search for Roundtable TRT World. But for now, from me, Enda Brady, not an AI robot, and all the team here, goodbye and thank you for watching.